to the Collector's Archive. I am the Vault Keeper. Identify.
Gareth.
Identity confirmed. Access granted. Switching to human interface.
Hi, Gareth. How are we doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Ed. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for agreeing to take part in this Collector's Archive. I know I sent you through a list of what we'll be chatting about. Hope you've, had a think about it and made some notes and that. And if you want, we can make a start.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, happy to. I'm just happy you agreed. Now, so first of all, I suppose I better ask, who are you?
Well, I'm Gareth, as you already know, and I run a toy shop called Cosmic Toys. Been doing that for quite a long time now. And prior to that, and all the way through that, I've also been a collector of all sorts of things.
Yeah? Ah, cool. So doing that then, as long as you have, you'll have come across quite a lot of things, in your shop and actually in your own personal collection.
Yeah, really wide variety. All sorts, vintage, modern, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Disney, Marvel, DC, anything and everything, really.
Yeah. Ah, cool. So what got you started then? So, what as a kid, what kind of toys and things do you have as a kid then?
As a kid, it was really different to what I have interest in now. As a kid, it was mostly die-cast stuff, so Matchbox cars, Corgi stuff, some majorette ones, which weren't quite as good as the Matchbox and the Corgis. Before that, it was probably Thomas the Tank Engine and Postman Pat. But I never really bothered with action figures until much later. Probably when I was about 10, 12 years old. Got into Doctor Who, and the only merchandise I could get at the time were leftover stock of the Dapol figures, which led me into figures.
Right. And so, how did you find those figures? Were they all right?
I have nothing to compare them to. In hindsight now, they are terrible figures. They really are appalling. Rivets holding them together. But at the time, I thought they were fantastic. People tend to compare them to the original Star Wars figures because they were out not long after and they were the same kind of size. And people always say they were nowhere near as good, but they actually had a lot more articulation with the bendy elbows and knees, something the Star Wars figures didn't have.
So, similar to the G.I. Joe stuff?
The G.I. Joe ones had the ball joints at the crotch and the shoulders, didn't they? The Doctor Who ones didn't have that.
Right.
Oh, similar kind of joints to the Star Wars figures on those parts.
Right. Oh. So, like the toys then. So, as a kid then, with mainly die-cast stuff, as you say, what kind of things did you watch? Like, what cartoons or TV shows and things? Any that influenced you?
Not that influenced the collecting so much. It was mostly the Disney. It's called the Disney Afternoon stuff now. I can't remember it being called Disney Afternoon back when I was a kid, but like DuckTales and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and it went on to become Goof Troop and Tailspin and stuff like that. But I also watched things like Inspector Gadget and, as silly as it is, Care Bears.
Care Bears, right?
Transformers and Masters of the Universe were a bit early for me, but I did catch some of the reruns and had some of the VHS as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom and Jerry. That was a big part of my childhood as well.
Tom and Jerry, yeah.
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, I think most kids, round about our generation or older, will be able to identify with that one. Yeah, Tom and Jerry's. Don't see them much on TV nowadays, I'm afraid.
No.
So out of all that stuff then that you had, what would you say was your favourite toy as a kid?
My favourite toy probably came along a little bit later. Again, probably maybe 10, 12 years old. And it wasn't a die-cast one. This one was a big plastic one. It was the Mantaforce. Oh, I loved that toy as a kid. I used to make up all sorts of stories, all sorts of adventures, all the characters that I made up in my head because I don't think there was a cartoon for it. But yeah, they all went on loads of adventures on different planets and everything. I love that thing.
I must admit, that's not something that I know a great deal about, Mantaforce. I do recall vaguely seen the toys out there, but it was, it was something that wasn't on my radar.
Yeah, it will have come along a little bit late for you. It was about 92-ish, I think, something like that.
Ah,
It
right.
was a British
Right.
company as well, Bluebird Toys.
Yeah. And what did it involve then? What was in that?
It's about the size and not too dissimilar to the Millennium Falcon, the original Millennium Falcon toy. But you could take the top off it, and inside it there'd be a lot of smaller vehicles, and then little mini figures, which are a bit like the Mighty Max figures or the Polly Pocket figures that would pilot those smaller vehicles, as well as the big one. And there was a whole line. So there was the enemy Venom, which was a big red fighter jet type thing. That was cool. It was one that I never had as a kid. But there were also a really silly purple one called Bog Rocket, and they had like snotty looking villains. that were quite good. There was loads of them.
Right. So, out of all the stuff you had then as a kid, toy-wise, is there one particular piece that you say that you don't have now, or that you miss the most that you did have, or?
No, I don't think so. I think I've managed to pick up everything that I would have wanted to get back into my hands. The only things that it's really silly, though, the only things that I sometimes think about trying to get again are the original Thomas the Tank Engine trains by Ertl, the ones with the stickers for faces.
Right.
But you just never seem to see them in decent condition. And
Yeah,
I'm a bit of a condition freak.
Right. I suppose with it being stickers, then the stickers are either worn or peeled off, or right. I see.
Exactly. Yeah.
So as you're growing up, you've had these toys and things like that. What would you say? What was the last toy you remember getting as a kid? Before kind of like you not grew up, but before adulting, or you moved on to other interests. What would you say is the last thing that you got?
Well, I'm a bit weird there because I didn't really stop.
Right.
I just carried on going.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for. If it wasn't the diecast stuff and it wasn't Manta Force, then it was McDonald toys, which they're really, really silly, really, really cheap. But there was a new one every single week, and I'd just keep getting stuff like that.
Right.
And then I was regular at car boot sales at the time, and I'd always be picking up little things that I thought were quirky and anything that would capture my imagination, even if it was something I'd never seen or heard of before. So I just constantly kept getting stuff and getting rid and getting stuff and getting rid. And and that's probably stuck with me all the way through because I still do it now.
Right. Tell you what, I'll frame it differently. Can you remember what the last toy you got that you remember that you actually played with as a toy then, rather than just picking stuff up, as you went on?
Not really, no.
It's a tough one, that. I know that's a tough one.
It is when it's something that's just constant.
Yeah.
I can't answer that one.
Right. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the McDonald's stuff. I mean, that kind of thing passed me by. But one thing I do remember getting from McDonald's was the Warner Brothers characters. They're like the Superman, Bugs Bunny, and the Daffy Duck Batman. Yeah, I do remember picking those up. I mean, I don't know if that was
the girl pig character as Wonder Woman as well.
Yes, yeah.
Porky Pig's girlfriend as Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Was Tasmanian Devil? Did they do him as a character as one?
Yes, Flash.
Oh, he was. Yeah. Well, yeah. Makes sense. Does that? That makes sense. Yeah. So this probably question ain't going to be relevant, but we'll go for it anyway. So, what would you say was the piece or the item that got you back into collecting as a serious hobby rather than just picking stuff up?
Again, I don't think I can answer that one.
No,
because there's something that sparks me almost every few years, every few months or every year. There's always something that sparks another collection to try and get either get things back or that I've never seen or heard of before, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want them.
Yeah,
and it can just come out of the blue. And it's really, really weird. Really,
Right.
really good.
So there's no one particular area or sort of like, you know, franchise or particular line of collectibles that was like the first one that you got that you then completed, say, perhaps.
I would probably say I always go back to the Doctor Who.
Doctor Who stuff.
Yeah, I probably always go back to the Doctor Who.
Right.
As much as I love the Star Wars stuff and everything else, the one thing that I keep going back to is Doctor Who, the classic series stuff. And yeah, I'll get this idea in my head that I need to get something, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. But in the meantime, I'll still be picking other things up,
right,
that fit in with that collection. I saw something a few weeks ago at a toy fair, and it was purely the age and the condition of it that made me want it. And that was so big. Money box of a Dalek, and it was still in its box. I don't think you get many coins in it, with it being as small as it was. But I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it. But the price tag on it, just because of the condition, was 370 quid.
Right.
I'm not paying that for something so small and so fragile. But because it's so fragile, that's why it's so expensive.
Yeah.
But it did make me turn my eyes back to the Daleks again.
Right.
So I'll be picking up those again.
Yeah, no, I must. Yeah, there is something quite iconic about Daleks. I mean, I must admit, I'm a sucker for Daleks. You know, they just look cool. You know, they do look cool. There's no arguing with that.
I mean, the same day I ended up picking up those two.
Right.
Probably just because I knew I couldn't get that one.
Yeah. Is that one of the movie Daleks? Is it with the thicker base?
The silver one.
I'm looking. Is it the silver? Well, the boat. Is it a blue one? Is it like a skylight blue one?
That one. No, that's a grey. That's a TV Dalek.
Is that TV Dalek? Is it?
And that opens up as a playset like the Mighty Max.
I think I saw that on one of your videos.
That's right. Yes.
A few weeks ago. Yeah, I remember them. Well, you've kind of answered really what I was going to ask you next, which was, you know, which was the toy or figure that got you back into that. I mean, you know, so you've mentioned the Doctor Who stuff. So of all the things that you've got now, what would you say? What's your favourite thing or your favourite figure? You know, from your collection or what you currently have. I mean, it might not be a figure; it might be something else. But just say the particular favourite item, say perhaps.
I think we're spoilt now because there's so much from the past and so much coming out now that it's hard to pick that one thing.
Right.
If I was forced to pick anything now, it could well be this Link figure from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's one that I had my eye on for a long time, and I put it off and put it off and put it off. And I finally got one, and because I knew I was moving, I didn't get the chance to open it for a while. And when I did, I was really impressed with it. So that's up there. But then there's also that little silly Dalek playset that I've just mentioned. I'm really happy with that. And I know that you're looking straight at that Robo Skull behind my head thinking, it should be that. That's the one that you should be more happy with. And yeah, I love that
nice
too.
Piece.
I love that too, even though it's not something I grew up with.
No.
But I can imagine myself playing with that, with the Manta Force figures, with the Manta Force toys.
The Robo Skulls. I could do another whole video about the Robo Skull just talking about that. You know,
I look forward to seeing it.
Well, I don't know yet. Don't get overexcited. I have to do these ones first and see how these go. So, right. So, I mean, this is the thing, yeah. I mean, we know each other. I mean, it's probably over 20 years now I've known you. So, I mean, you know, some of these questions that I'm asking you, I do know the answers to. Obviously, the people out there hopefully watching this don't, you know, so I'm kind of being their gateway to this. So, I mean, is there anything, because it's difficult as well with you being a collector and having your own shop and you buy and sell and trade, etc., and things like this, but out of all the things that you've seen come and go, things that you have or things that you have had in the past, is there anything that you would say that is there something you'd still like to have? You know, is there something, you know, that you think to yourself, I'll get round to getting that at some point?
Yes and no.
Right.
There is something that I'd like to get my hands on.
Mm.
It's something that hardly ever pops up for sale at all. And when it does, it goes for stupid money, regardless of condition.
Yeah.
And being a condition freak that I am, and this is a particularly fragile thing, I know it'd cost me an absolute fortune to get it, and it's not worth it to me because it's not something I would have been able to go up with, but it's something I'd really like.
Right.
And I've also got no way of displaying it.
Okay.
And that's one of the old PVC Dalek play suits from the 60s.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how would you display something like that? Especially when
small
you've
mannequin?
got cats. When you've got cats that would just
Yeah.
tear it to
Yeah.
shreds as well.
Yeah. Maybe you ought to. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could display it down at your shop in a glass case or something, or behind glass
Well,
doors.
maybe. Yeah.
Make an exhibit of it or something like that.
Exhibit's the word.
So, I mean, that what you've just described there might actually tie into this next question, but you know, we'll give it a go in and see what you say. So, do you have a Grail item aside from that?
That would probably be it.
Is that what you'd say is your Grail item?
Again, maybe other 60s Dalek toys as well. But I'm also quite happy to have reproductions. I'm not that much of a snob. I'm more interested in it looking nice and being in good condition than I am it being of a certain age.
Yeah.
Especially since at my age I couldn't have grown up with it anyway, so I don't have that nostalgic link to it. The only other thing that I'd it's not one thing, it's a line of things, and it would be the Ewoks and droids figures from the vintage Star Wars line.
Oh, all right.
I always quite liked them. I always thought they were that bit more quirky and weird and different and original compared to the original figure Star Wars film figures. And I quite like them, but again, silly money.
Yeah, so I'm just because I've got the Ewoks cartoon theme tune going through my head now. You know.
Yup.
Right. So, so aside from the collecting, you know, your shop, you're collecting. We know about Doctor Who. We know about the other things that you've briefly mentioned. I mean, is there any other interests that you have that are outside of what your main collecting or your main focus is?
Yeah. The last couple of years, I've got quite heavily into painting Warhammer 40k figures, particularly the Tyranids. I just love the designs of those. They're a bit like the aliens from the xenomorphs from the Alien films.
Yeah.
But I'm also loving the lore of the universe as well. The story and the history to it is brilliant. And I'm going through the Horus Heresy audio books at the moment. They're really, really good. Or most of them have been anyway. And then also lately, I've developed a little bit of an interest in Japanese and Korean cinema and TV. And that's really come out of the blue for me. It started with watching the old Godzilla films, and it's just spiraled from there. I'm watching pretty much anything now.
Yeah, Godzilla stuff. Yeah, no, I've not seen any of the Japanese Godzilla stuff, I must admit. I've seen the Hollywood one that they did. Was it in the 90s with Matthew Broderick? I've seen that. But my knowledge of Godzilla comes from the Godzilla cartoon. You know, when I was a kid, you know, Godzilla and Godzuki, you know, pressing the activator button, and he used to rise up from the depths. You know, I won't start singing the theme tune.
Nobody's perfect, Eddie.
No, hey, listen, I loved that cartoon. I really did love that cartoon. You know, but some of the mistakes they made in that, they're still making in TV stuff and films now, where you know, like a 200-300 foot monster comes out of water that's probably only about 50 foot deep. You know, but that's by the by. So, in all honesty, Gareth, I think this is we're coming to end now. I did, you know, my intention with these were to keep them brief, you know, and just basically, you know, have it as a showcase for collectors like yourself to, you know, talk a bit about what they do and what they enjoy and what they like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hand it over to you for a couple of minutes. And, you know, if you want to tell us, you know, where you work, you know, or, you know, so like, you know, where your shop is and things like that, and promote your social media. So hand it over to you for a few minutes and go for it.
Well, the shop is in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire. It's called Cosmic Toys, and it's across 2 floors. It's massive, and it's got all sorts of stuff in there, both modern and new. You can find a selection of the goods at cosmictoys.co.uk. You can find us on Facebook at Cosmic Toys, and you'll also get us on Instagram and YouTube at Cosmic Toyman. I'm now trying to upload videos on a fairly regular basis, at least weekly, of new goods that are coming in. You'll also, another place you can find us as well is usually we attend the Bolton Stadium and Doncaster toy fairs.
Yeah.
If you do happen to be attending any of them, make sure you say hi.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, so yeah, head over there and check out Gareth's website. So right, well, Gareth, I appreciate you taking your time out to have a chat with me. And some interesting stuff there. I hope other people find it interesting. Yeah, no, thank you very much. And and we'll catch you later. And thanks for sharing.
Take care.
Yep, you too. All the best.
Thank you for accessing the Collector's Archive. To enable return access, please select the like, subscribe, and notification icons. Transmission terminated.